Retro anime. How did we find it? How does it hold up? Unpacking the ins and outs of being an old school nerd and proving that 80s kids can't remember a damn thing right. These are the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd.
Welcome to Mindless Midlife Musings of the Anime Nerd. I'm Rick, and I'm joined by the rest of our panel, Lynette, Vic, and Brian. How's everyone going today?
Honey Boo Boo.
Hello.
Awesome. That's definitely the first time
Brian
I've heard
broke
it.
me from the
I'll go
get-go.
with it. Oh. Well, in this episode, we're talking about the ultimate cosplay superstar. No, not Yaya Han. Today, we're talking about Cutey Honey. Cutey Honey is a 1994 Japanese anime series and is part of the greater Cutey Honey media franchise created by Nagai. The 8-episode OVA we're covering today was produced by Toei Video and released in the US by ADV Films starting in about 1994. This is part of a larger universe, as I said, and it's not its own thing. This is actually a sequel set 100 years after the original 1973 series. Cutey Honey follows character Honey Kisaragi and the Hayami family. She fights criminals and monsters in the fictional and yet aptly named Cosplay City. This is a fun one. This is a fun one to be covering. I'm glad we're talking about it. Fan requested, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is so... I've never seen the original. Never seen the 1970s series. I'd only ever seen this one. And I never finished this one because of it was the mid-90s and how releases come about. I think I saw like the first 2 volumes of this, and then to be based just solely on the release schedule, I never saw another one of this. So I think I've only seen the first half of the arc.
Hey, I'm the other way around. I recall seeing the second half, but I don't recall the first.
So for me, this was great because I was able to finally watch all 8 episodes. And I assume all of you guys got through all 8 episodes as well.
No, I missed the last one.
Oh.
Well, if you saw one, you saw them all.
I think you mean you saw one, you saw it all.
We saw them all.
So this is Honey is a female android, and she has a device in her system, whatever, that allows her to immediately transform into various personas, summon weapons with powers, basically insta cosplay. And she does this by shouting "Honey Flash," and then proceeds to do exactly what she just said. Honey Flash. She flash a lot. She flash everything. And
Multiple times an episode.
This must have been during the 90s when certain things were censored, but you only saw the top part.
Yeah. No, this is a anime, to be sure. It's not porn. It's titillation, right? It's yeah, it's but not porn. Fan service. That's, I think, probably the best way to describe it, right? This would be a fan service anime.
It's like it was during that one time where they started moving away from gore and going into...
Yeah, it definitely embraces its perviness from the grandfather to the father.
So the grandfather is great. All right, so it's a great starting off point. So the grandfather is Danbei, and he is actually a recurring character. He was in the original 1970s anime. And when I looked up the character, in the original anime, he wasn't a cyborg. He was just an old man. So now the reason that he's still alive 100 years later is because now he's more machine than man. He's great. He's got all these like metal plates everywhere. And
He is a pocket-sized version of a Mazinger Z.
It's so great. It's just...
He said what?
He's a pocket version of Mazinger Z, which is another Go Nagai property.
Yes.
I was going to say he's a pocket-sized Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, no, he is literally like a little mini Mazinger.
I think that's a great thing to bring up, Vic, if only because one of the things that makes this particular iteration of Cutey Honey so interesting, besides the titillation, is that this is like the sandbox for Go Nagai's work, right? There's so many like characters and cameos and Easter eggs.
Oh, yeah.
His whole portfolio.
The first episode, there was it was supposed to be a gargoyle, but it was Devilman.
Yeah, there's a Devilman gargoyle in the first episode. Episode 7 features the main
Kira
character
Fudo
from Devilman. Yeah, And there's just so much of that throughout. There's characters from Keiko Kamen show up as background characters and victims. Anbei's cyborg body attacks are all Mazinger Z, Grendizer, like it's everything. His backpack is, it's all, everything's an Easter egg. Professor Kabuto from Mazinger Z is in one of the episodes. Honey herself turns into the Koji Kabuto character from Mazinger Z. That's her cosplay when she's locked up with Akira. So it's just, and that's just what I was able to catch. Like there's just a ton of these wonderful little Easter eggs. It's sort of like a love letter to his whole portfolio. So it's kind of cool. If you're a Nagai fan, this is your anime. Now, plot wise, I want to talk about this. Something that really bugged me is how the story ended. Typical anime situation. They ended it before they should have, because they, I don't know, either ran out of funding, decided to stop doing it. So it doesn't end well. And that frustrated me because it ended really well right in the middle. It had a really great fourth episode with the battle with the mid-tier big bad and the reveal of the larger big bad. And it was such a great way they could have ended it there, but they didn't, and they kept going, and they stopped the anime. So the actual conclusion to the anime is so much less satisfying than the mid episode. Anyway, it's something that bugged me.
Well, what bugged me was that between some of the episodes, it's like there's huge gap of time between certain episodes.
Yeah, especially the first half arc and the second half arc. There's a considerable jump of time. But yeah, each episode there seems to be a little thing. It's not a problem per se. I get what they were doing, structurally. It's the typical villain of the week structure, right? And then with the connective tissue leading to an overall series bad.
Right. And it's I think it was the third or fourth episode, the one with the club and the singer. How at the very beginning they do like a highlight reel, and it's like that could have been its own episode right there or two.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, they did. It was the fighting villains action montage. That whole episode was so Bubblegum Crisis to me.
Oh yeah, very well.
Even her cosplay in that episode, I wrote "Pris" is my note because it's exactly. And then 5 seconds later, I wrote "lesbian Pris" because of the way that it's going.
Well, the thing is that even the soundtrack was very Bubblegum Crisis-y.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a homage for sure. This anime is for mid-90s. We're talking, again, VHS releases, no DVDs. You're lucky if you could find what you found. On top of the fact that it is a anime. And it's filled with just all those anime tropes that are so common now, but were a little more, I don't want to say groundbreaking, but a little more surprising when you started to see those back then. Like the Gynax jiggle kind of thing. Accidental nudities, the don't look at me things, the lesbian villains, the old mans, like all these tropes that are so common now, and everybody's just like, oh, it's an old man, he's gonna be, and he always is. Like that wasn't we were at the birth of all of that, not directly, but for us it was. So now revisiting this, it's kind of interesting to see all these tropes in their young forms. So one of the interesting things about this anime, I think, is the villain designs. The villain designs are all pretty interesting. Everything looks like it's right out of a Devilman anime.
Or Messenger, yeah. They all definitely look like a Go Nagai villain.
Yeah. I think that's, if there's anything that you can say about Go Nagai, is he's consistent. Because his creature designs, his character designs, everything is on par. Like interchangeable.
Yeah, right? Like, do you think he's a villain? Check his eyebrows. That'll tell you.
Is he a hero? Does he have sideburns? He's a hero. The first half of this is one overreaching arc. The second half of this is another overreaching arc. And like I said before, they had to cancel the series before they got to complete the second arc. And it's a shame because the first arc ended so well. I really wish there was a way they could have rewritten this, re-edited it, structured it to deal with Dolmek at the end of episode 8 rather than dealing with him at the end of episode 4. Like you could still have brought Panther Zora from the little Black Maiden girl, which again, wild design. You got half a girl stick.
Yo, Black Maiden freaks me out.
Because little kids are freaky.
100%.
But I didn't know. But I didn't know is it a little guy, is it a little girl. I was like, if it's a little guy, it shouldn't be that pretty. If it's a little girl,
then it's like,
too. It's too. It's too stupid to her to be topless. You want fan service, but I'm not a fan of that. I mean,
well, and then they got this whole thing with the little EpiPens that everybody keeps using.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Every episode, it's like, oh, she's kicking my ass. Hang on, EpiPen. Now I'm a monster. It could have EpiPenned Black Maiden, and then she might have been the Zora sooner or whatever.
You know, the thing about that whole thing, it felt like we were saying goodbye at each transformation. It was like, well, there goes. You had them, and now they're terrible. Now you're a wolf. I mean,
now you're furry, now you're scaly.
Now you're covered in rock. Like it's just.
All right. Well, it was good while it lasted. EpiPen.
Well, at least those EpiPens are only the first 4 episodes.
It's a great commercial for don't use steroids.
Yes. Never, not even once.
It's like, are you scared that your teenager's using steroids? Inject.
Oh,
Fair enough.
man.
Fair. Way to go.
Did they turn into a giant king cobra?
So the first 4 episodes, they introduce the character Mayor Light, and they don't really use him in the last 4 episodes, but I wanted to call this out. Mayor Light in the English dub is voiced by Dragon Ball Z's cat god Beerus, the Jason Douglas, the voice actor, and in the Japanese version, he's none other than resident genius of the Super Dimension Fortress Macross, Sho Hayami, who plays Max. So he's voiced by 2 pretty baller character actors.
And they don't use him.
And they don't use
like
him.
2 greats in anime. And
why
yeah,
do you
he's
not
not even
use
used.
this guy? And I mean, that's not... Yeah, and I mean, that's not to speak ill of the rest of the voice cast. The rest of the voice cast is a bunch of all-stars. Like, people who've been in just tons of stuff. But, you know, me, I gotta call out my Macross nods when I can get them. So I saw it was Sho Hayami. I'm like, I gotta write this one down. But this is also interesting because the English voice actress for Cutey, for Honey, was apparently handpicked by Go Nagai himself. He selected the English voice actress. Now, I know the only version I had for us to watch was subtitled. If I'm not wrong, I think we all watched it subtitled because it was just it was the only one I had. So
the only one that matters.
I have to admit, it was one of my first subtitle experiences where I didn't have a choice. It was alright.
Yeah, I really liked a lot of the voice actors did a really good job in this one. I don't know that I could have watched it in English yet anyway because I first experienced it in Japanese. So for me, I like to always kind of revisit it in whatever I watched it in the first time. So yeah, that's voice acting notwithstanding, it was excellent. But one of the standout things about this anime is the quality of the animation itself. For an anime, this is really well drawn stuff. Every time Honey flashes her Honey Flash during her Honey Flash, it is, god damn, that's really well drawn. Like every fabric is just like.
Let's go with this. Anytime Honey flashes her honey pot, when she said her honey pot, how about that?
I'm gonna just play with that the whole episode. It's either gonna be flashing the honey or Honey's flash. I don't know. Whatever it is. When she does that, and she does her magical girl spin, God bless her, it is so well animated that
like you wish they would have did that like Sailor Moon or something.
You would wish that a lot of series were that fluid.
I mean, to a degree.
More ways than one.
And it's not just the fact that she's naked. Yeah, sure. Every time she pops up, I'm like, but it's every time, like everything about like the way the fabric animates in, the way there's like they animate sparkles along the like it is stupid pretty when she flashes. Stupid pretty.
You've been trying to tell women this entire time. It's pretty when y'all flash.
That's right. Yes, when you flash your honey, it's yeah, we appreciate the honey flash.
We see the sparkles even if you wear corduroy.
Oh man.
It can be you could be in what's it Lularoon, and you can say honey flash. We're gonna look at you and we're gonna see diamonds. Learn a lesson.
What's hilarious though is that in every episode, everyone's like gunning to peak, and then in episode 7, freaking Akira Fudo actually thanked her for it.
Yeah, that's right. Oh man, so that was a moment. All right, so seeing Akira Fudo in episode 7, I was pretty hyped about that because I'm like, oh, shit, this is awesome. This is crossover material right here. I need to see a Devilman fight Cutey Honey episode. I'm all into this. And then I thought about how Devilman treats, and I'm like, no, I don't want this at all. I don't.
That was that one movie, and God forbid, no.
I don't ever want that crossover to happen. They need to just be friends forever, and this is it. We're done. I don't need it. No.
Well, I know what we got to watch next because
I've
never seen Devilman.
Oh no, I'm not.
There are a few. I know which one you're talking about specifically, Rick, and no.
Gave me nightmares. That one is not. I don't think it meets our criteria. I think it's a 2000s anime, so I think we'll have to hold off on it. But that's the last time I watched Devilman. I watched that with Devilman away. I think I'm done with this series. I don't we're good. I don't need to continue on with that.
It wasn't Devilman. No, it wasn't Devilman. I was on the attention for that one.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was just I just don't have the time for it. I can't. Yeah, that's it. I just don't have the time for it. No, I never watched another minute of Devilman after I watched that one.
So you saying the guy in episode 7 is Devilman?
Yeah, and I think it's obviously I'm assuming it's like pre-transformation Devilman. It's just Akira Fudo, the character, because the kind of innuendo like she makes, like don't sell your soul to the devil or something. Like later on in the episode, and it's I think it's him pre-Devilman transformation, but it's fun.
I think I know why I haven't watched Devilman. His name was Akira. There you go.
That's it. Mystery solved. And now I'm telling you don't. If you only need to watch one, you can watch part of the one that I'm talking about, which I think is Amon Devilman, and you don't need to watch anymore. You're good.
That's the one you should not watch.
That's not the one. That is. Yeah, this ain't about that anime. We're moving on. Cutey Honey. Yeah. So, episode 3 does the whole bubblegum crisis montage with the singer and the EpiPen microphones and all that. But it's also a Chun-Li cameo.
Yes, it is.
Shout out.
Yes.
Homegirl Chun-Li action there. That was badass.
Chinese fighter.
That's, I think, one of the things about this. I really wish this would have gone longer as an anime. Was how much fun they could have had with her cosplays. They really could have. Just this, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why this character continues to be reborn in new anime. Like she's had a couple since this one. They had a series called Cutey Honey Universe, and then they had
that one's like the most recent one actually too.
Right, but they also had the other one by your guys.
By the guys from Trigger, yeah,
the Trigger guys, Cutey Honey or something. It's like they just there's something about this character that isn't just her. She's kind of bad and yet endearing in such a way. Like if you were to take away the nudity aspect of it, she's still a strong feminine role model. Like she's protecting everybody in this. She's protecting the dudes from themselves. She's like Wonder Woman, right? She's kind of just a bad. And they could really have played with that. Again, that's probably why they keep bringing her back.
I'm so glad we get to have these conversations before I stick my foot in my mouth. Because it actually gives me a chance to actually really think about what my issue with her. And again, longtime listeners are they're gonna lose their when I say this. I got milk drunk. It was too much.
Oh no,
Wait, what?
No,
Brian, that's a physical impossibility. There can never be too much.
There's no such thing as too much. Come on, man. It's not.
Again, but it's if you put into the fact that she's actually
Lynette left.
changing.
Lynette has walked away. Done with you.
I needed a moment.
You can't even handle your blasphemy, Brian.
She's like, all the things.
I feel like I don't even know you anymore.
You agreed to do this show, Lynette. You were like, as long as we don't have to talk about for 12 minutes straight, I'm good. Not in your contract.
Damn, I broke Lynette. Holy
no.
Too much. And I was like, I need a moment.
Oh my goodness.
Never. Oh my gosh. No,
So
Brian, go ahead, please elaborate. I'm disagreeing with you vehemently already, but please continue.
I don't know if I want to listen to this.
I'm interested to see how he's going to explain too much.
Yeah.
It was in the context of what it was being shown for me. You know, it was, hey, you're seeing these, but it was a tease. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't. It didn't lead into something else. So like,
you're like, my can only get so erect.
Right,
not?
Right. to the point it was like, okay, all right, we're going to see again. Again, she can't just fight him. Look. I'm 45. I don't have many left. And
wow.
And I am saving these up for rainy days. Like I had to go through with this limited amount of. And here you are, just taking them away when she goes from biker chick to pilot to sailor. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah. Man. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm really sorry for the overdose of.
So I was going to say that, but then I was going to point out the fact that if you look at it, she's actually changing into her cosplays. Yeah. Well, I think I would have appreciated that more because I realized that's all I was getting. It was we've been watching everything where you see Brian Freeman. They had a gratuitous amount of that, but Crying Freeman.
If I remember correctly, you said there was too much nudity in that one too. I'm gonna have to go to the callback to the tape on that one, but I do recall that there was a too much. I'm gonna pull the tapes. We're gonna put it in.
No, look, no need. My memory is really good. I don't think we need to do that. I don't think that's necessary at all. I'm going to say words that have never, ever been said by me. And Vic and Rick may pass out when I say these words. The nudity was too much for me.
Yes, there is. Because this isn't this is just a fan service anime. That's why everybody is lacking any genitalia from the waist down, right?
That's a Barbie mode.
Yeah, everybody's Barbie mode in this. And that's, that's indicative, of course, not just of typical Japanese, the censorship, but also because that's not what they were selling. That this is
go to hell.
Titillating. This is like a titillating trip to the strip club. That's what this is.
I think that's what it is. You know how you go to some, like, for instance, if you go to a strip club in, like, say, the wonderful state of Virginia, right? There are more bikini bars
Sure.
And then you go to, say, Las Vegas strip club. That's what this felt like. It was like I was going to a more bikini bar than an actual strip club.
Right, I don't even know how to respond to this, man. I feel like you know, this from now on, when we're gonna watch a anime, I'll let you step away from it. You don't have to be a part of it. I feel
No, I need to be, but just know there's sacrifices being made.
I just felt bad that the girls were always cold. All the women
all
were
of
cold.
yeah.
They were all. They could not
Well,
have
if you
a
notice,
warm.
all the fights were at night. Obviously, it's colder at night than it is during the day.
Cosplay City must be like 30 degrees perpetually.
It had to be because they were always cold. It was like, can there not be one warm battle? There has to be a warm battle somewhere. You know.
I can honestly say I don't think I've ever seen in any anime or any a not hard. I don't think that's
Right?
drawn that way.
They always go, we're gonna show it has to be 30 degrees.
That's it. It has to be.
That's
it has to be
the requirement.
goosebumps. It needs to be that cold.
If they're big enough and they run, they have to put out an eye. That's how it has to be.
And this, ladies and gentlemen,
with it.
This is why we do the show. These deep, important conversations about temperatures and light. So I honestly tell you, cold hard facts on this is I didn't necessarily care for the last half of this anime. I enjoyed the first half when it was more I don't want to say tongue in cheek. It wasn't so much that it was more formulaic. Like I appreciated the silliness of the formula. How she fights the monster of the week. They use the EpiPen. They turn into a crazier monster, and then she does her thing where she slices them clavicle to, and then they die. And
this
I appreciated that.
Yeah. No, we need to appreciate that right now. We need to let that one marinate. Clavicle. Oh my God. That slow clap on that one.
It was smooth. It's just smooth. Don't pay attention to this, but this is an awesome statement.
How the did we get there? But I will have to admit, they did in episode 4. They did have by far the best slash that she did, and I think she did up down and then down up, and I was like, oh, she had to hit it with the D.
I really liked episode 4. I really did. I thought the whole build up to her battle with Dolmek and the reveal of Black Maiden being Panther Zora and all that, I thought it was a really strong episode. I was so bummed that wasn't the end of it. So honestly, I think 1990s me probably stopped watching at the right time because I think that's about as far as I got back then.
Yeah, the first half was definitely better than the second half for sure.
And I mean, the second half was where all the Easter eggs were. Like that's where they were just tossing everything into this. And that was great for what it was. But as far as narratives go, it fell apart. And that's, again, because as I stated before, they stopped producing it. But much to the chagrin, those of you who didn't finish it, in the 8th episode, it starts to get, the animation gets worse. Like they were rushing to finish it. And things were unshaded. Characters weren't completely drawn in some parts. So the last episode really suffered. Like they just had to get it out. And it's too bad because it does a disservice to the really excellent stuff that you see in the earlier episodes.
They got sick and tired of drawing.
I'm not the only one.
I'm pretty sure that's not it, Brian.
Staff walked up to Nagai and was like, Nagai-san, it's too much. Like, we're just done. We can't.
He's like, booby is booby.
You know how it feels like how your dad used to catch you smoking cigarettes?
No, because it never happened to me, Brian. Please elaborate.
So I've heard. But that's what it felt like. It felt like when people used to tell stories of when their parents would catch them smoking cigarettes.
Right.
And they would make them smoke the whole damn pack. By the time you're at number 30, I think there's 30 in there. I'm not sure.
Probably. It sounds accurate. Based on the Venusaurs episode, I think that's how many were in a pack.
There you go.
I don't know. I guess I think this whole project fell apart before its time, which was too bad because I was enjoying myself. There wasn't a time where we were watching this rewatch that I thought, oh man, I got to sit down and watch another one of these. I started it and I kind of wanted to just power through all of it because I was having a good time with it.
It lost me on the second episode. The second arc.
The second arc was weak sauce. They were trying.
Honestly, they had a lot of potential there. So, with the whole, it could have felt like the whole Power Ranger series where it went from Rita to Lord Zed, and Lord Zed brought in more. That's what should have happened. It fell flat.
It did.
It almost flat chested.
Yeah, it almost Black Maiden like.
That wasn't necessary. Come on, that hurt.
She was young. I get it. She was early in her development. By the end of the series, she was fully EpiPenned, basically, but she wasn't a monster. I mean, she was a monster.
Oh, she was ready to EpiPen.
Yeah, that's right. She was ready to EpiPen. Did you guys have a favorite villain? Because all those characters are wild. Did you have one that you thought was just great?
Jewel Princess.
Oh yeah, Jewel Princess.
Yes.
Yeah, she was pretty fun. I liked her a lot too. She was dark as hell. The whole turning girls into trophies thing was pretty f***ed up.
Yeah, that was kind of scary.
Yeah,
but she preserved all the stuff. I mean,
I appreciated
preserving her trophies.
I appreciated that the show was willing to go that dark, but then I remembered that Nagai does things like Devil Man, and I was like, well, this is nothing compared to how dark as he can go.
You just stepped your toe in the water on this one.
Yeah, I know. I did. I liked her too. She was probably one of my favorite ones as well. And I can't even tell you any of the villains from the second half, really, because again, it just fell apart. This anime fell apart.
Sashi, the one that was from that did the Edo Princess.
Oh,
okay.
The Cobra Snake.
The Edo Princess.
Yeah, the Samurai Park.
Yeah.
That was
Samurai
the Westworld. That's the one. Yeah, the
Westworld
one.
Yeah.
That's right. Westworld. That was probably the coolest thing in the whole second arc. So had any of you ever watched any Cutey Honey before we sat down for this one?
That's negative Ghost Rider.
Like I said before, I watched the second half because I remember that. I don't remember the first half at all. So
wow. So then this was like this was a huge upgrade for you. You got to see the better part of the story.
I mean, I may have. I think I actually owned a DVD around here somewhere. I just remember the second half. I don't remember the first. So
I don't remember which one of us owned it in the 90s, but it was the VHS tapes. Obviously, it was the 90s. But somebody had the first one, which is 2 episodes, and then somebody else had the second one, which is the next 2.
You just think that was probably like $35 every 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, true story. $35 for an hour of anime tops. That was the 90s. So yeah, I don't at this. It's because I guess the length of this, and not necessarily that it's particularly deep anime. It's not. Like most anime we watch these days, it seems like a missed opportunity for more.
I wonder how close it is to the original.
I do.
Or is it a little different? Like from the 70s?
I wonder how much is in the original.
So I saw if you just do a GIF search for Cutey Honey and don't spell it improperly, that's something worth noting. They misspelled the word cutie for this one. This is the only one where they did it. So it's spelled, for this series, it's Cutey versus the typical spelling of cutie, which is Cutie. Every other version of Cutey Honey spells it Cutie. It's the only one that does it. If you Google Cutey Honey, you can see some imagery from the old series. They did a really good job capturing yet updating the visual identity of the 73 series. It looks interesting. I don't necessarily know that I'm willing to sit 50 episodes of it, but
yeah, no, it's neat because a lot of the Go Nagai properties, they've gone out of the way to at least keep the original intent of the original designs on a lot of them.
Agree, and I think that's something that's his whole portfolio is that way. Every time they update a story of his, it seems like for some they really do try their best to keep that DNA there. Keiko Kamen, I think, has only had the one release, but when it came out, it looked a lot like the manga. Every time Devilman comes out, it's just like the same DNA over and over again. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think it's interesting how I think it's because he was so influential to anime in so many ways. Sort of like I don't want to demean the man, but he's sort of like the dirty old uncle of Astro Boy, you know?
Yeah.
It's just
like you want gore? Here you go. You want violence? Here you go. You want boobs? Here you go.
So yeah, so it's kind of the vibe I got whenever I watch something from Nagai. And I mean, I know he'd been in the game a long time, but I'm consistently entertained by his stories. So I guess he's right up my alley. Kind of a short one here, but let's go ahead and we'll close it out. Vic, I'll start with you. How do you feel about Cutey Honey?
Well,
sorry, the new Cutey Honey, to be specific.
So like everyone else, definitely the first arc is definitely better than the second half, but at least the second half, if you're familiar with Go Nagai's properties, at least all the little Easter eggs here and there were kind of fun. Definitely better than the actual episode count. I did like episode 7 with Akira in it. That was funny, despite that was like a classic 70s style episode overall. So
yeah, you needed the music. You needed the music.
Yeah.
Like it was right there.
So overall, I enjoyed it. You know, if you can't sit for the whole thing, at least watch the first half. If you're a fan of the property, definitely watch the second half just for the Easter eggs because it's fun. Overall, it's just a fun series. And despite what Brian says, there's never too much.
And on that cue, I feel like he handed the baton over. Brian, what are your thoughts on Cutey Honey? New Cutey Honey.
All right, so I think it's readily apparent that I've watched the least amount of anime between all of us. So the Easter eggs, I wasn't able to catch any of them. So as a result, it made it a much more difficult slog for me to actually get through. I think this is one of those advanced animes where you need to have knowledge of other characters for you to truly appreciate it. And if you don't do that, if you try to go into it, you're just going to get milk drunk and it's going to lose you. The first arc was a very great arc. Just, I didn't have to worry about anything. And by that time, by the 4th episode, I'm like, okay, this started to get a little repetitive of what they're doing. But then, boom, there you go. Well, she survived. It's the same girl. 5. Stop. How many more episodes?
Now, did you guys stay in episode 4? The story ends, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Brian. I'm sorry. The episode ends and the credits roll, and then there's more, sort of like a pseudo, like kind of like a mid-credit stinger thing where Honey comes back, like they actually show her coming back. Did you guys get that? Yeah, you saw where she literally is an angel. She literally comes back as an angel.
I actually pay attention to the time whenever an episode ends because on average, an anime series, the opening and ending credits are about a minute 30, a minute 40. So if it tends to be a little longer than that, I tend to hang around because that means there is something there.
Dude, you're way better than me. I don't even look at that. I'm just like, this ending looks different. Let me keep watching. This is kind of how I landed on it.
As soon as it said skip credits, I was pressing the motherfucking button.
Well, to help you out with that, Brian, if you only watch the first 4 episodes, you could stop and you'd be fine because it's show her coming back. She like comes out of the light and she's like cosplayed. Honey flashed her flashy honey into an angel, and she's like got her wings and she like floats down the Choke, ever so eloquent Choke. I remember the line in that episode. He's talking about Honey, and his criticism or his reasoning for her being so awesome is Honey is just honey. I was like, wow, they really broke the writer's bank.
That was a deep one right there.
Yeah.
But they swung for the fence on it.
Spouting facts, Choke. You go, boy.
Maybe honey, just honey. That's spitting.
Oh Christ! Yeah, honey is just honey. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut off your final thought. I'm sorry, but it did make me think. I forgot to ask if anybody'd seen Angel Honey, Flash her honey, flashingly.
Her holy honey.
Her
Or
holy,
holy
yes,
honey.
her holy flashed honey. And on this note, I feel like we really got to go to Lynette, who's been suffering just horribly through this episode, and really just Lynette. You know, I know that this was
First
your
of all,
first time.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to break you.
I know that this is your first time with Cutey Honey, and probably more than you were prepared to have a conversation about. So, really, how did you feel about it?
Well, I learned the hard way that you should not watch this in a public space on a very large television that, that anybody can see in. I watched the first episode. I went, oh, okay. Time to pause. Turn that off. Let's go somewhere else.
Now, Lynette, is there a reason
Ma'am,
why
this is a Wendy's. Oh.
But it was enjoyable. When I watched it, I was like, this is what would happen if Sailor Moon was allowed to cosplay. That's how I saw it. It was like crazy Supergirl has some magical powers, and instead of glitter masking everything or pasties and stuff like that to help out, it was just like, there you go.
we'll put our production money somewhere else?
That's right.
Right? They didn't want to spend the time to do that. They were just like, blah, there you go. You know, you're fine. But I did like the call outs for the cosplays that they did when they did the Chun-Li, when they did all the the Rockstar Girl and things like that. I was like, oh, cool. And then I was like, I see why people like to cosplay this character, because you can cosplay cosplays and pretend that you're Cutie Honey. So
It's Inception. It's cosplay Inception. You can
you
be I'm
cosplay a
Cutie
cosplay.
Honey as Chun-Li. It's the Tropic Thunder. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
So overall, I enjoyed it. Like you guys, I liked the first half because it had closure. The second half kind of was like, let's throw all these bad guys in and see what happens. And
Let's see what sticks to the wall.
yeah,
Nothing stuck to the wall.
except for the Cobra lady. I mean, I think that was like the only episode that I really liked.
And it did fit. It did fit. Like you could have squeezed that into any episode in the first half. Like, it would have fit into the first narrative arc.
Yeah,
it didn't really attach to anything else.
I think the thing about it before we
go ahead.
I think the thing about it was you understood what the EpiPen was the cause of the transformation.
Right.
In the first arc. The second arc, you don't know what is, because it gets lost. What exactly is the cause of what's making them transform?
I'm guessing it's probably related to the original because Panther Zorro was back. They just had that ability.
Yeah, it was like the Panther Zorro thing. But again, they don't explain it. Brian's right, and I feel like it's
you have to be like a longtime fan to actually know that.
Which I am not.
From the 70s. From the 70s. Come on.
Hey, don't act as if you weren't born then.
I mean, I'm like, we're from the 70s, but yeah,
you said 73.
It wasn't 73, yeah. So it did predate us. But and I mean, not to mention availability. Can you see this one airing with Speed Racer on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m.? That's not happening. So, oh, Trixie, Honey Flash! I was like, what the f*** are you watching? Nothing, Mom! It's just cartoons!
It's pixelated. Okay. All right.
Yeah. But no, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I agree with everybody here. It's if you are a big Go Nagai fan, the barrier for entry on this is low, and you can have a really good time with it. I think that if they would have been a little bit clearer about the concept of it being a cosplay superhero, that probably would have been more approachable for some people too. I mean, it wasn't until like, I don't know, like the third or fourth episode where I finally realized that it was called Cosplay City. I didn't even know that at first, and then when they said it,
Nobody
I was
else
like,
cosplay.
this just all makes
Nobody
sense.
else
No, but
cosplay.
everybody's a criminal. I love that everybody's a criminal. Even Chogei's parents are criminals, and his mom is great. She's hilarious.
She's my second favorite character.
So yeah, I guess I'll just close this out here. It's the barrier for entry is higher, but if you're a fan of the work, you can have a really good time with it. If you're not a fan of the work and you just like, and this is for you. Be careful, because I've heard from reliable sources that there can be too much in this, and so if your
no sane man ever.
Too much cold.
If your threshold for cold is low, then you're not gonna want to sit through this whole story. If you're looking for fun, I think that's the best way to describe this anime. It's just fun. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's having a good time. It's like, you want cosplay, you got it. You want fights, you got it. You want you got it. Like, whatever you need, we got it. And it just serves it up for you in a very pretty way. This is that era of animation, the 90s animation is like right before things started to get I don't know the way to describe it. I think I've heard other people say it, is that the 90s were like a golden age for anime. The 80s and 90s were like a golden age for anime, because after that, things started getting glossy, was kind of the way I've heard it described. That everything felt over refined, and there was a grittiness, a naturalness to the way that anime was done in those eras that made it so compelling. And I feel like this anime is right smack in the middle of that, where you can tell there's a lot of hand-drawn love and hard work was put into it. But you could see
a lot of hand love.
But you could see that the spectrum was starting to shift away. And this wasn't Akira or Venus Wars or any of those where the visual styling was so specific, or like a Ninja Scroll. But it was still beautiful. But it's like, this is kind of where it started. Things were a little too perfect in Cutey Honey sometimes. A little too much for Brian, for example.
Yeah, I can tell you my favorite one though, right? It's in the title credit scene, but she's actually laying down on her chest, and you see the weight of it. I was like, this motherfucker spit this.
I get it. I get what you're saying. The quality of the anatomy was fantastic, and it honestly,
Definitely.
Notwithstanding, every time Cutey Honey flashed her honey flash with her honey way, it was a flawless representation of a woman. I mean, it's not Satoshi Urashihara. It wasn't Plastic Little level of nudity, but it was like, if you were gonna do a statuesque version, it was very good.
I would definitely say it's number 2 underneath
Satoshi. Yeah. It's plastic. This is like a step down from Plastic Little. It's the silver medal, right? This is pronunciation of the famed God breasts notwithstanding. Yeah. I'll put subtitles in the video for you now. Oh man!
Those people are going to jump over on this. Learn the name.
Yeah, check it out, man. If you just want to have fun, but don't check it out at a Wendy's like Lynette. Check it out somewhere where people.
It was just the one time.
Definitely watch it somewhere. We're out of eye line. Preschool was probably a smart call. And
who do you got a shout out?
Just have fun.
Who do you got a shout out for this? Because this is one of your
one of my fans.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. This was requested by a Lynette fan mail. I hope they enjoyed it as much as we did. So I guess, folks, until next time, keep calm, and remember, if you're gonna flash, ladies, flash like a pro, flash like a honey, give a honey flash, and flash often.
You've just been privy to the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd, presented by Geek Grotto. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Geek Grotto. For show notes and corrections, or for general geeky fun, you can visit our website at geek-grotto.com. If you would like to sponsor the show, you can do so on the podcast's Red Circle host site, redcircle.com/shows/MMMAN. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please like, follow, and subscribe.